All right, hey everyone, welcome again to Ruby Monday. This is a very cool way of getting to hang out and talk about our code projects and everything else going on. So, hey everyone, hope everyone's been doing well. And someone else is signing us code newbie, so that's fine. I'm not the only one here. That's good. So we're gonna get started. Hey Farish, it was you. We're gonna get started. Glad everyone's back. It's good to see some familiar faces. I think actually this is probably the one time, let's see, has everyone been here on a Ruby Monday Hangout before? The only name I don't recognize, or actually picture I don't recognize, is Christopher. Christopher, is this your first time here? And it's okay to put it on the chat also if we don't get it, if you don't want to come on. So that's fine. Very cool. So welcome. I'm glad you were able to make it on board. So one of the things that we wanted to start off this hangout with this week was the topic of a new project and whether or not we want to continue with the Ruby Monday blog or if it's time to start fresh. So everyone here is welcome. I think the good thing is that everyone's been on one of these before, so we're at least a little bit familiar with the project. And Christopher, you came in right at the right time because if we go ahead and start fresh, you'll be on the ground floor of it. So there will be lots of newer things to do. So why don't we get some opinions? Let's see if you don't mind, I'll just kind of ask you personally, and we'll go from there. So Abhinoam, what's your thoughts on this? You're muted. I can't hear you.
Wait a minute,
There you
well, I'm not today. I'm not understand well the.
go. Do
It's
you think we
well,
should continue?
bear in mind that I just understand 80% what you're talking about.
No
In
worries.
English. If
You
you write it, it would be easy to me.
sure. So the question is,
You ask it if we have to begin a new project or going on with the the Ruby blog, the blog fresh. I would like to begin a fresh. Yeah, new project.
all right.
Sorry, sorry for my English.
No, no, it's good. We understand perfectly. You didn't understand me. That was the problem. Uh,
Yeah.
that was my English, not yours. Farish, your thoughts?
Basically, I think we should start a new project, and if people want to work on the old one, they can continue on it. Uh, they could come up with their own 2.0 version, whatever they want to add. But I think we're at the end of the road for what we want to do here, and it's time to try something different. I know we talked about at least using an API or even making an API or something of the two, uh, and that would be great.
Very cool. Okay. So I like that idea. And Jesus, I know you just put fresh on the chat. Any further thoughts on that? We'll let Jesus meditate on this for a while. Mary, what do you think?
Let's see. Sorry, my video's off.
Yeah, no worries.
But I think it's a good idea to start fresh. I like what Farish said about letting people work on the blog if they want to. But yeah, I think it'd be nice to start something new.
Very cool. Okay, so I think the tide is going in the new in the new side, but we'll still keep asking just to make sure we have a good consensus of this. Monish?
Hey, even I pretty much agree with Farish. It makes sense to let both live so that people could try out something different, and at the same time, if somebody wants to see how it was working with the old project, they could probably continue adding value to it.
Very cool. Very cool. And let's see here. Renan? Very cool. So yeah, that's a yeah in favor of a new project on the chat. All right. Victor, it's all on you now. You can oppose everything.
Well, I was going to support it, but since everybody else went in that direction, let me go for the blog then. Change my vote. Because of one reason. There was a discussion last week between myself and Alan that I'm not sure if a lot of people heard. And that was, I noticed in the blog we use a lot of gems to accomplish more complicated tasks. But it seems like everyone wants to move on to a new project to do more complicated things. So what I was voting for, we're going to stick on the blog. Maybe we should make a list of what those gems are giving us, like friendly URLs is something Alan was working on, and then try to roll our own. If we're going to move to a new project, which I support because I think I'm the newest one here, so selfishly I want to start from the ground up. But I would recommend the same thing there. I would recommend, even if we use gems to add features at first, to go back and roll our own. Because gems are great, but if we don't know what they're doing or how they're working, we're really not learning anything. We're just knitting together gems.
Right, I understand. So you would be in favor of that. My thoughts on the process is I do like the idea of taking an app to a 2.0 state, just because of most basic tutorials stop at once you launch something, and then you don't have anything else to work on, and then you kind of have to start fresh before letting something really mature. But I do like Farish's thoughts on that. That I think it is about time to start something new, just so we can continue helping and getting some different ideas of everything else. But I like his idea, and I think a lot of people have mentioned it, keeping it alive and maybe still dedicating time on the conversation if someone wants to talk about a pull request that they worked on the old app or on the blog app, to not call it the old app, on the blog app, and work on it that way. What do you all think of that?
I like that idea.
Does that sound like something good to the rest of the crew?
Yep.
Okay, so let's do that then. So now that brings us to something else. What should we build? That's the fun part. Okay, we decided we're going to build something new. Jesus left, so we just decided for Jesus, since he put fresh. Maybe he meant freshen off the blog app.
There's a great financial opportunity if somebody wants to rebuild Ashland Madison and make it safer.
You're looking at the numbers, aren't you, Farish?
You know what? I actually came up with a way where they could use the site in my head without using their email address. But I'll probably end up with a divorce by doing this, and a lot of my friends hating me.
Yeah. Cost-benefit analysis, Farish. Cost-benefit analysis.
Oh, just there.
All right. So let's talk about a new project then. So have you had any chance to think about what you would like to see in a new project? Maybe if you have an idea of what project would be interesting to you, let's talk about it. If you don't have a specific project idea, then why don't we talk about what features you would like to work on? Maybe something you've been curious to try out, something that you think would help you in your coding, in your code learning, or just something that you find interesting, even if it's not a full project, but we can talk about the different aspects and maybe we can combine it into a new project. So I'll leave the floor open to kind of discuss about that.
The only thing I thought, and it's kind of relevant for us, but we have an international group, is we have the elections coming up, and I mentioned API. There are some, I forgot what it's called. Is it VoteSmart API? Something political oriented, but at the same time, I don't think it would be daunting. I don't know how good the API was. When I looked at it 3 or 4 years ago, it was still terrible.
Okay. So something API related, that's good. And you were thinking about maybe something around the elections. Any other thoughts? Jesus, you got some good ideas. What do you think would be a good challenge for the group to take on? Working with what that you haven't seen yet?
Well, maybe jump into an open source project,
Okay.
so we can get used to work with code that you didn't write.
Okay, code that you didn't write, great. I'm
And
taking notes as you're speaking, so go ahead.
and refactoring also other people's code.
Okay, refactoring. Very good. I like that. I like working with code that's not yours. I think that's eventually everyone here, when they start working when they land that developer gig at a company, regardless of which company, unless you're building the app from the ground up, you're probably going to be working with an existing code base. And that has its own challenges to begin with. So I like that idea. Mary, you got any thoughts on this?
Sort of. So, since somebody brought up, since this isn't like an international group, I think it'd be kind of cool if we did like some sort of social media platform, like a Twitter or or Facebook or something, and that way you could get like async kind of exposure and but I don't know if that'd be too similar to a blog.
Okay, but something that gives us some more exposure, something international.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any particular things that maybe you're working on now, or you're learning on, or you're trying to learn now that would be helpful to you to play with, to explore?
Not that I can think of. I'm still just like open to anything when it comes to this stuff.
I was just putting a little message there to Michael. So Monish, any thoughts on this?
Sure. Since we were talking about probably doing something which probably could use APIs, this might be a little bit maybe also going towards that. If you are using APIs in Rails, you might need a JavaScript framework with it. So if people want to keep it only pure Ruby, then this might not really apply. But if you want to probably just try out a framework alongside the Ruby thing, the API that you're writing, you could probably end up learning both in the process. So I'm not sure if for example, React fit in here.
Got it.
Just throwing an example, actually. Would like to get all of your thoughts on this.
That's actually a really good idea. I'm not sure if we're ready for it on this one to start combining the languages with the JavaScript framework and all that. But in one of the discussions that we had with other coding night organizers, we were talking about in the future doing a collaboration maybe between the Ruby Monday group and the JavaScript group. Cool. And you can obviously join both. It's not like you got to be exclusive to one or the other. But one of the future projects might be Ruby building out the whole API, all the back end, and then letting the JavaScript crew work on all the front end interaction stuff. And that might be something interesting to work on later down the road.
Right.
Is that kind of what you were thinking of?
Yeah. Because I was part of the JavaScript enabled session like a week or two back, and there we were discussing that we would be trying to use React, and we were probably going to leverage some of the existing APIs to get the data, and we could use that. So this also kind of sounded similar on those lines.
Yeah, I think that would be a perfect combination of collaboration with the two groups. And again, there could be crossover because you don't have to be exclusive to the Ruby group or to the JavaScript group. So that might be an interesting proposition for the group later down the road. All right, thanks, man. Raymond, you got any thoughts? I think you're probably not coming on speaker, but feel free to just put them on the chat on that, and we'll pass it on to Victor. And if Victor is around, then go ahead and feel free to share. If not, then there you go. I think you unmuted yourself now.
Yeah, it sounds like API is the way to go. So let's do API. Something with an API.
Something with an API. All right. Now, second question, because that seems like the most requested feature right now, something with an API. So when the group, when you're all saying APIs, you mean use an API or do you want to build out an API? Because they're two different things.
If possible, both.
Great.
Let's think.
Jesus, your question?
Yes. Does this new project have to be Rails, or could it be something that does not use Rails?
I think that's a very good question. I don't think it's mandatory that we use Rails. It just so happens that because we're usually working on being web developers, whatever we can put on the web. Now, I know Rails is not the only thing. We can obviously build a Sinatra app or even something different. What do you have in mind?
Maybe something with Sinatra, like you said, or one of the new frameworks. I have been looking at Lotus
Okay.
and Bolt, and they seem pretty interesting.
All right. What are the rest of you think of not using Rails? So we have some other frameworks. So we have Rails, we have Sinatra, Volt, and Lotus, I think. The advantage I see with using Rails right now is because it's what most of the group is probably learning. But there are advantages of walking away from it just because by walking away from Rails, you get to understand a little bit better on how you use things in Rails. But you know, it's up for opinions on what you want to do with that. And I think we might be seeing a lot of Rails on the chat, and that's probably because that's what most of the group is learning, and that's fine. We can build something out with that as well. All right. So go ahead, Michael. Feel free to jump in.
So I'm kind of along the lines of what Mary Catherine said. Doing a social network, I think it would be a really good idea for pretty much everybody because you could do like, I don't know how advanced everybody is, but like committing to many relationships. You got polymorphic relationships with like posts and comments. And then JavaScript, if you did want to get into that later on, you have like the AJAX calls for updating posts and stuff like that instead of reloading the page. And then like likes, you know. So you got a lot of AJAX and JavaScript there. Plus, you can do API calls for like logging in, like GitHub logins, Facebook logins with the API, and then you can build a backend so people could access like the users and stuff like that. Then you got uploading for images. So I think that's going to be like an all-encompassing type of platform that we can touch pretty much everything.
To tell you the truth, Michael, basically almost everything you described we did in our blog.
Well,
That's what I'm thinking right now. We used Paperclip to upload images. We had, I think they added polymorphic relationships. We actually had a join table, so we did a has many throw on tags and comments. In some ways, it sounds like I know you're new to the group, a rehash of what we just did, though.
Yeah, blogs would be similar, but it is different though. If you think of like a friend as being a join table of itself, stuff like that, it can get pretty interesting.
I have a quick thought on that too.
Sure.
I agree with Michael. We did a lot of that, yes, in the blog, but a lot of that was done with gems like Devise. And the one thing that I believe wasn't done with gems was like the tagging for the posts, and that was a nightmare for everybody to figure out and get working. So the one thing that we sort of rolled our own is the thing we struggled with the most. From what I saw.
So if whatever direction we go in, maybe before jumping in on a gem, building it our own, seeing how it works, understanding it, and then post that, the reality of things is the learning how to roll your own stuff is great because you get to learn the inner workings of it. And then once you really get to production type apps, though, more than likely you're going to be using a lot of these gems because they've already done the work for you. They're maintained.
Great. But at that point, you know what they're doing. You understand
exactly
to your code. You know how they're interacting with your code, and most importantly, then you know how to troubleshoot them when something goes wrong.
Yep, exactly to your point. So I think that it would be an interesting proposition to maybe have things in a two-step process where we first roll our own, struggle with it for a bit, and then once we struggled with it, then we can make that deciding factor. Hey, is this what we built on our own good enough to what we need? It satisfies our needs, and we don't need the extra overhead that a gem would provide because every gem provides overhead on stuff that you might not need at all.
And that might be a great way to do just feature parity. So what is Devise give us? Roll our own. Is it feature complete? If so, then we can move on with Devise, but at least at that point we know exactly what it's doing.
Right. Right. Okay. So we have some of these features. All right. Now, as far as planning something new out, so we know we want to use APIs. We know we want to have an API that write our own API as well. What do you think? What does the group think of also using something that, to change up the pace, right? We have a blog app. We built it out. It's kind of hard to interact with it. I like the social network idea. The only problem is that, to really see the features of it, you kind of have to have users, right? Or else it's kind of hard to see the benefit, or not even a benefit, but just using the site, using your app for something. So I was thinking of something along the lines of, what if we can build out some kind of game? Some kind of game, a simple game, doesn't have to be complicated. It could be, just a replication of something that we already know, whether it's a card game, whether it's a board game, anything like that. But it would give us the benefit of we can actually use it, right? We can go on and play with it, and if we play against the challenger, then now we have to have some kind of logic around that. And my thoughts on that were the following. With a game, now you have to start getting into some kind of logic. It's no longer just a CRUD app. So if you think about, for example, if you build out just to say something, a blackjack game, now you have to actually start coding some logic into that to know what a winning hand is, what is who would win in a 5-player match, what each value each card has. So now you start actually having to get into some algorithms and things like that. And then if you have 2 players or multiple players, then you start having associations. Then you have to start dealing with a lot of other things. We could build some social network things into that. Maybe, maybe you want to follow someone's match. But something that gives us a little bit more of coding challenges along with the basic things that we're going to need anyway. So we'll still need to build out the site. We still need to build out the CRUD, portion of it. But now we get into some other ideas. As far as integrating APIs, maybe we can do it like you can play via Twitter. So you can post your move on Twitter, and our app with the API would be able to read that and place the move for you. Or we could integrate with a Twilio API, and you could declare your moves via SMS, and you can still follow it on the web app. So that's just some kind of like miscellaneous thoughts I've been having throughout the week on that. I'd love your feedback on something like that.
Quick question. Do you know if Code Wars has an API?
Code Wars, I don't, but we can look it up. Does someone want to check?
Yeah, sorry, my Wi-Fi's out, so I'm like...
No worries.
But if they do, it might be kind of cool to do like a head-to-head kata challenge with people, and then have users vote on the best answer or something.
Head-to-head what? Sorry about that?
Would that be possible? Are you familiar with Code Wars?
Not too much, so go ahead and...
Okay. So Code Wars, you basically, like, they give you kind of like an empty class usually, and they say, pass in these parameters and it needs to have this result or whatever, and you can do it however you want. But if you solve it and passes the test, you get experience and you rank up and everything. But they're these like little nuggets of like puzzles.
Okay.
But obviously the solutions are just infinite, and everybody has a different one. And they kind of have a ranking system in there, and you can rank like which solution was most clever or the best practices or whatever. But it might be kind of cool to do like keep it kind of coding themed and do like a head-to-head puzzle thing, either with Code Wars or separate from it. I don't know how that would probably be very difficult, but something with that, and that way you could we could integrate with an API and have kind of an existing user framework, but just present it in a different way.
Mm-hmm. That sounds interesting also. That sounds interesting. I'll have to check out. I think both Victor and Jesus posted the dev.codewars, so there might be an API attached to that. I haven't had a chance to click on the link yet. But we can always research that and find out if it's something we want to do.
Another
Yeah.
idea. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that was the end of it.
I'm gonna post this real quick. This is the Uber coding challenge. I'm in a boot camp as well, and we just actually did this. We tackled this last week, but this is actually a pretty interesting thing too, because it's actually real world. Because Uber actually uses it, and this will integrate a couple things like APIs, and then pretty much whatever you want to build with it. It might get a little JavaScripty though.
Yeah, but those type of ideas are good because it kind of gives us a look into what other people are thinking that would be useful tools for building out. Jesus, you mentioned that it'd be good to build something that's actually useful to other people and not just a portfolio item.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. How do you think we can build, or do you have any ideas where we can flex a little bit more Ruby, the Ruby muscles, right? You're a Ruby guy versus a Rails guy, so where we could have a Rails app, but we're still using a lot of Ruby just to figure out the logic of what we're doing. And that's mainly the only reason why I was thinking of something like a game, but it doesn't have to be. Mainly what I'm looking into doing is having the basics, but also flexing some pure Ruby. I mean, it could be something like plugging into, I know here in the US we have like open data APIs, and maybe plugging into some kind of API where there's a lot of data to analyze, data that would be helpful to people. But I don't have a specific idea right now. Is that something along the lines of what you were thinking, or what were you?
Yeah, maybe like you said, data analysis or crawling pages to download data.
Okay. So yeah, so that's another part, right, of being able to shift into that. So how much data analysis would we want to do? I don't know if that would be exciting. Abhinav, go for it.
Here in Brazil, some person plug it into an open data from the, I don't know how to say, I think it's the Senate here, and what the analysis that they did was the voting of the person elected in some parties. So they was able to show that people from a party that says that defends some kind of flag didn't voted together with what they were saying, and they put in a little beautiful graph, and it was easy to analyze. And so the people say, "Oh, I voted for somebody. I want to see if he is voting like he said he was to vote." Something like this. I think that as Farish said about the election, perhaps there's some open data in USA related to what the candidates did or something like that.
Okay, so maybe going through some open data. How do you all feel about getting into the data part of it? Because that's a whole different thing, right? We have the apps, we have the functionality, but data, that's crunching, writing Ruby scripts to go through it and things like that. How do you all feel about that? Kind of like web scraping. I think it's more of a data analysis type of thing. To be honest, I'm not sure that's the direction that I was thinking as far as the next step. So it might be like a different type of app than what I had thought. But it's something to explore since it's brought up.
Well, here's the thing. This thing is project can be so modular. We can add data to it and manipulate it. We can use D3.js to create graphs or whatever we want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of different options.
Okay. The other thing, and I forgot who I had this conversation with. I wish I could remember right now. But I had a conversation with someone, and one of the things that came up is that we could also look into building out microservices, which would allow the group to work on smaller tests at a time. So, for example, if we were building out an API or using an app, then instead of connecting directly, someone could just feed whatever is scraping the Twitter API, and that's just its own microservice. And we have to write it in so that we can just gather the data that we need from it. Things like that. Does that make sense? Or any thoughts on building something like that?
The only thought that I really have is to stay as true to what we're here for as possible, which is Ruby. There's a lot we can go into. Swift for iOS, JavaScript, and all its endless frameworks. But we're here for Ruby. So how do we stay truest to that?
Got it. Yeah, that's, and I think all of these discussions are kind of sticking to Ruby, so that's a good thing. It's just then we realize we can do so much with Ruby, which is good. We can go in so many directions. So how about we start narrowing them down, or else we can go on forever and talking about things, and they're all good, and we have. It's not like Ruby Monday is going to end, so we can always pick the next project and jump on something like that. So let's see. We had 2 people mention a social network type of app, and then we had some open data type of things with Farish kind of thinking about something that ties into the elections that are coming up, or just at least analyzing something related to that.
This might sound silly too. When we were talking about social network, and using an API, I was thinking a social network for GitHub issues. Might sound silly, but they have an API, you can pull the issues, maybe build a social network around it, but it might be kind of a little boring too. I'm not sure.
Well, I was actually thinking something like that too with GitHub, and instead of doing just the issues, you could do like achievement badges for, doing like streaks or
gamification.
Yeah, or like it's just kind of like a GitHub sidecar kind of thing. It just like goes with it, companion app, I guess.
That'd be cool. What about? Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
I was just gonna say, like, make a social element to, because on GitHub you can see how many, like, what your streak is and how many times a day. But there's no way to like post that to a feed.
With that, and also GitHub itself, they have this star thing, and it's kind of boring and drab. Whatever that thing is, the streak, is that what it's called?
They have like how many days you committed code, but I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
Maybe.
So going in that direction, so there's a lot of things we can do with that, right? So what if we had something where it's a service where it ties into your GitHub, it ties into to the GitHub API, and it ties into the Twitter API, and to kind of promote your accomplishments on GitHub, it won't post everything, but let's say you have a 5-day coding streak. So it'll automatically post to your Twitter feed, hey, I just had a 5-day coding streak on GitHub, and maybe a link to your profile or something. The copy could change, but something that's along those lines. Is that kind of something that you were thinking of on the social part of it, Mary?
Yeah, or I was thinking it was kind of its own self-contained, like, Twitter feed. I mean, obviously you'd be able to use the Twitter API to push it out if you wanted to, but it was almost like its own feed of achievements, and you could maybe like leave a comment on somebody. Like, I don't know if anybody has a Fitbit, but you can cheer people on or whatever.
Yeah, got that. So cheer people on their accomplishments, on their streaks, on something like that.
Yeah.
And then maybe you give them the option to tie it to one of their, if they so choose, they can also broadcast it on Twitter, on Facebook.
Right.
Maybe we do like an auto screenshot for Instagram or something like that.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Okay. There's another gem. It's a gem, but we can kind of adapt it. Has anyone heard of LOL commits? I think that's what it's called. What it does, if you haven't heard of it, every time it's something that you set up on your computer, and every time you do a git push or a git commit, it takes a snapshot of you from your webcam. So you get like these silly pictures of what you were doing when you committed that. So that would be kind of funny to kind of tie into Instagram or something like that.
Are you sure about that?
Depends on how you code, I guess.
I do most of my coding at 2 o'clock in the morning, tequila, so I'm really not sure this is a good idea.
All right, we're backing out on the LOL commit. It was a worthy cause.
Good idea.
All right, but I think we're getting a good idea where we're heading with this then. So something where we can cheer people on. So there's like a upvoting type of thing, starring or whatever we want to build it. The option to plug into an API for social media outside of our own, so Twitter, Facebook, maybe Instagram. Any other ideas on that?
I know there was thoughts on data, and I know there was a thought on trying to work with data. Is that something where we can expand it beyond just GitHub, like GitHub and Bitbucket?
We probably could. I've never worked with Bitbucket.
Pull multiple sources. That's where I put most of my code because it's free for private repo. But we can pull multiple data sources, pull them all in.
Well, that'd be nice. I hadn't even thought about that.
And you can also do other stuff like the code wars that she talked about. You can start pulling from multiple sources and then saying, how active are you? Today you might be doing your code on GitHub, or you might be doing some code war stuff. You're still coding. You're still working. You're still learning. You're still growing.
So it's not like just because it looks like you haven't had a streak on GitHub doesn't mean you haven't been coding.
Exactly, because guys like me are on Bitbucket.
Yeah, like a step count streak or something on Fitbit for coding.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
From all your sources. Then we gamify coding.
Yeah.
Yep, I like this. I'm liking where this is going. Okay, now
take it public and we all get filthy rich.
Boom. And here's the founders right here on this call. And people that only got on the YouTube link are going to be mad right now.
Feel sorry for those that are just listening.
This is the founding team right here. Now we'll let them in. We'll let them in. But here's the other part. So I still want to do something that involves a little bit more logic, right? I still have some kind of ideas around that. What if we could match people based on their GitHub profile? Maybe like on languages, we can figure out how we can do that. We could figure out if we could analyze how often they commit, what usual areas, like if they're working on code wars or they're working on their GitHub account, what language they're working on, and suggest potential pair programming partners.
Oh, cool. So like OkCupid for coding.
There you go. You got it.
Okay coding.
Okay coding.
I was thinking the same thing.
So we can match people based on coding style, the language, the level that they're learning on, and then they can start, and it's not mandatory, but we could go, hey, there's a potential match for you for someone that you might want to pair program with or something like that.
In some ways, though, this sounds like the JavaScript, what's now called JavaScript Enable project, because they want to do like a, a meetup for code newbies?
Oh, really?
Or like a local, the Nerd Tinder, something like that, yeah.
All right, well, that's cool. They'll work on JavaScript, we'll work on Ruby. Then we'll just get them to work on our front end.
Yeah, basically we're just trying to build a code newbie mapper. That's the initial idea. And
very nice. Very nice. Yeah, so this I think would be part of it, but I think the bulk of what we're doing here, if I'm understanding it correctly based on the way the conversation was going, is that that we're really building something that helps you promote your coding activity all in one place. And it gamifies it because it helps you get accomplishments. You can get cheered on or upvoted, encouraged, a la Fitbit on that. And then there'll be some side aspects to it where, that'll kind of be the matching and things like that. But I think the core concept of it would be helping you gather your different places where you code into one centralized location where people can follow your activity. Did I kind of sum it up correctly?
Yes, that sounds great, because I know my Twitter followers don't want to see all that stuff.
Yeah, mine neither.
I agree.
Okay. So now we kind of have an idea of what that looks like. Now to vote on it, group, what do you think? Do you want to move forward with that as an app? And welcome, Kimberly, and you're free to vote as well. So we'll go one by one, see if we have any thoughts on that. So Farish, what are your thoughts on this?
I like it. I like the gamification idea a lot. I like the idea of maybe finding a potential coding match.
I think so. And you know what? We can always write the API for this. So not only are we going to use APIs, but we'll write an API for that, and we'll open it up to our friends of JavaScript enabled.
Right.
And,
That could work.
yeah, and we'll just we'll still write our app, but we'll open up an API for the data that we generate on this for them to use, and they can use it if that helps them on their project. Jesus, what do you think?
I don't know. Not excited about the
I know you like Ruby. Yeah, will you still help us if we do it though?
yeah.
All right. Yeah, and Jesus could use plain old Ruby objects throughout the whole project. But I think, again, we need to add some things that will make it a little bit more challenging than just a standard CRUD app again. And I think we can get the fun part and all the gamification out of all that. But for those that want to jump into something a little bit more challenging with all that, I think that's going to be the matching of it. And the matching, we will have to figure out how we can even start analyzing people's profiles that are signed up with us, and then seeing what criteria is going to end up in a match or not. But yeah, I think that'll be a fun aspect of it. And then writing the backend for not only us to use, but for people that are working on other frameworks. I think this could turn into a nice project. So let's see who else we have here.
I don't really understand the coding wars things. It seems kind of like a gray area. Well, actually make it in a match or like the gamification, I guess. I was kind of just thinking it'd be kind of like, so you had like your game idea.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually kind of make it a game by like adding, like you have an avatar, you add attributes based on your commits or your, how many lines did you edit, this week. If you inserted, 3,000 lines, you get like 2 points of strength, and then you could kind of, because that add a lot of logic to your app.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's other things that we can do. If we find a way to kind of accurately figure out what someone's code experience is based on the challenges they're completing, maybe like on Code Wars, the ones that how many points they're getting, then maybe we can even add a challenge function to it, kind of going back to Mary's idea where you can challenge someone. But again, it'll turn into a huge project. I think with what we have now, we can at least get it started. Monish, any thoughts?
I'm just wondering on the pure Ruby side, so we are doing this. I've not been part of the Puda Club, but people have been. I think, correct me if I'm wrong. They try to see if they could apply Sandy Metz's things mentioned in every chapter into probably a game or something. Where you could really see the value of what you're learning through the book. So if we could leverage some of those things in this project to a greater extent, I think people would have a lot to take away.
So that's a good point. I think this first program kind of got us. This first project got us working together, kind of getting familiar with working on a team. Not only for everyone who participated, even on my own side, kind of organizing and just kind of making sure that people can communicate and double checking on how the tickets are doing. And we've learned a couple things. But now with a new project, I think we could take some of that experience and start adding some guidelines to our code. For example, best practices. So we want to make sure that we're coding in an object-oriented style, using maybe Sandy Metz as a reference for that, right? So now when we're doing code reviews, not only are we looking for correct code, but we're also looking to make sure that we're kind of abiding by these practices that we said we were going to.
Sure.
Building it out that way. Is that something that would sound good?
Yeah, and just to add to this, so regarding the project, maybe I was just thinking if probably since in the CodeUV community, if there's something that we could do that could add more value to the community in terms of a project, something that could help people collaborate more or learn better. So maybe Saran could give us some ideas on, what kind of a project would help the community itself grow, and that could be something motivating that people would also want to do as part of the Ruby Monday group.
Yeah, that sounds good actually. I'll definitely run it by Saran and see what she thinks. But even even this, if we do it right, where we can combine everyone's coding activity, kind of give them a score, give them the motivation, an option to cheer them on, we can always write the API for that. And now when we create a profile like on CodeNewbie Discourse or something like that, or even on Slack, you can tie that to your our app profile, whatever we decide to call our app. And that could be something that you could cheer someone on via Slack, you could cheer someone on via Discourse, because we'll write the API for it. So I think this has a lot of interesting things that could be tied to it to help the CodeNewbie community, and kind of just keep encouraging people.
Cool.
All right, and Brandon, feel free to kind of join in on the chat. And let's see here, Victor, what do you think?
I like it. I like it. I like the fact that we can help the entire community besides just this room today.
Yeah, I think
that would apply to the whole CodeNewbie community. It's something you can tie into this to base. When you come on, you're in JavaScript or CSS. You might be all over the place. It's one aggregate place to show all the things that you're doing and pair you with other people. Because to me, that's the cool thing. The pair coding that I've been doing since I joined here is my favorite part, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been great. That's one of the best things about being in this community. And I think if we can help that, then, if we match you and both of you agree that you'd be a good fit for pair program, we can even tie into some other APIs to schedule it. We'll figure that out as we go.
Really, yeah, you can just keep extending this thing.
So I think we're at a consensus, and we'll figure out a lot of Ruby for Jesus to do, just because we don't want to lose Jesus. But I think we're good. Farish, I know that we started with you, but we kind of talked about a couple other things. Would this fit into what you were thinking of as far as working with APIs and doing things on that end?
Yeah, because it's just basically, like I said earlier, let's work with the API. It doesn't matter what it is. It could have been about chicken farmers and eggs. And let's see what happens when we generate an API that other people can use. I think it's kind of common at a lot of, kind of make it like real world practice where a lot of websites have an API for developers to use.
Yep. I agree. Okay. So, and then I think Jesus is having a good discussion with Michael right now. So some of the things that we didn't do on this first round is, we did say that we were going to do TDD, but we didn't always do it. And then maybe we should actually think even beyond TDD into behavior-driven development, or BDD, and start really working every feature we build from the outside in, and making sure that when we're doing code reviews and we're pairing with people, that's really where we're starting. Can you talk a little bit about that, Jesus, on how we didn't really do, I guess, proper TDD?
Well, I think some people wrote the test after the implementing the feature, and you are supposed to write the test first, and then the test will fail, and then you do the implementation and make the test pass.
Yeah.
I think when I did two tests in the beginning. One was shoulda matchers, I believe, and the other one was capybara, but I did the red, green on that, but I didn't write any tests afterwards. I don't know how much testing was done after my little testing in the beginning.
Right. I know, like for example, Alan was writing tests for everything he was working on, which was great. And there's a couple other people, but I know not everyone did. And that's one of the things that now when we're starting a fresh project, we can always just make sure that we implement it since the beginning. And if someone writes a feature and we help them, we double check that they went through the real testing process for that. And that's going to be a big help for everyone, including myself, because I can definitely get a lot better in testing than I am. So, all right. So I think we're good with that. So we have a new project ready to launch then. That is exciting. I'm really happy about that. So
what are we going to call
it? What do we call it? You want to be here for the next 2 hours just figuring out what we call it? So let's get some ideas. Go ahead. Give me your first thoughts on what we can call this project.
Well, you have Christian Miguel, you have J-Day. What do you want to call this?
I don't know. I don't know what route we want to get to go.
Hey, it's getting very creepy.
Right there, get together.
Hey, that's actually kind of catchy. Get together. All right, we have get together. What else? What else do we want to call this? I can hear the wheels spinning and the let's commit. See, Michael, we just, you know what? We're just gonna delegate this to you. I'm gonna write a ticket. Come up with a name, assign you, and you're good. Mary, you got some thoughts?
What about committed?
Committed. Ooh. Committed.
Or like,
all right, we got committed.
Yeah.
All right, kind of like committing your code, right? Michael.
Well, you know what? What if you don't like who you're paired with? What do you call it? Uncommitted?
Uncommitted. All right.
There's a lot of vibes in this room for a dating app.
Yeah. I don't care about pairs. I don't know.
I think it's just the matching aspect of it, and dating apps. On the actual note of it, dating apps are big on algorithms. I mean, that's their whole business model, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
Figuring out how they're going to match to people and whether or not they're going to be compatible, and I think that's interesting, and it actually is very interesting to learn about coding and algorithms for us. We're not going to be on the dating side of it, but at least on the matching someone for code, it's a good challenge. Okay, so we have the committed, and we have what was the other two? Get together and let's commit. Any other thoughts on that? We got a +1 on committed. We got code together. All right. Who wants to build a quick app so we can vote on this?
Maybe that should be the second app.
Right? That's going to be the microservice, voting on names for our projects.
Just to let you know, committed.com is available around $3,700.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. All right. We'll split it up evenly. Kimberly says chump change. It's worth it. All right. We got Coders Heaven, Get Together, Let's Commit, Committed, Reddit with Ratty.
Yeah, the jQuery plugin is like ready. It's like for stars. So I can just throw a quick app together, and then you put your ideas, and then it'll basically give it in stars, like 5 stars, 4 stars.
Yeah. So let's do this then. Let's see. How can we do this? I think we could probably do just like we can do a type form or something like that, right? We can throw in a couple of the name ideas and just kind of vote on it throughout the week, and we'll figure it out for the next Hangout. There you go, on a Google form. Thank you, Michael. So why don't we do this? We'll put in the names of the app ideas that we have. Michael, do you want to help us with that and kind of collecting the names, and we can spin up a Google form on it and we'll vote on it? Mary, did you have something to add?
So just to let you guys know, there is a website called DateProg, Data Programmer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think this exists, but yes.
The power of Google. And Jesus is going to make the voting app in just Ruby. And he's going to use Lotus as a framework. Come on, Jesus, forget Lotus. Do your own framework.
Do we have to log in with console over here, or
What was that?
do we have to log in with the console, or?
Yeah, let's see. We'll figure this out. But hold on.
You know what? In this app, you might as well put in what IDE you prefer, because we got some Vim people here, some Applied Text, and
You know
other.
what? Yeah, preference. Editor preference. Emacs or Vim. That's a deal breaker, either or. Okay, so thanks everyone for kind of brainstorming through this. So I think the good thing is we have the idea, we have the general outline of what our next app is going to be, and that really is a great thing that we kind of arrived at this, because I really didn't know exactly what we were going to do, but I'm very happy with what the conversation led to, and I hope you will be too as we kind of move forward. So now the next steps in this will be, one, writing out the kind of like what we're going to work on, the specs for this. So I think at least I'll outline what the conversation was by next week, and we can kind of start writing some tickets around this. And
You know what? I would, if we're working with multiple APIs, maybe because it was more of a free-for-all, and I know in the beginning when we did the blog, there was more work than people, and then we started getting more people. But maybe make little mini teams for working on each API, so everybody gets a chance to work with API as experience.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. I think it would be good to kind of, assign 2-3 people to a feature and let them work on that. And then since we get to integrate to multiple APIs, not just one, then everyone can work on integrating one or the other, and doing it that way. I don't agree on using Ruby's core library for APIs. I think it's NetHTTP, and no one can agree that if they enjoy NetHTTP. So we'll choose something to interact with that. Let's see what else. So I'll write out some of the features that we want on this. Jesus, would you like to help us ensure that as we get started with this, we do start from the get-go with a BDD, TDD process?
Yeah, soon.
That would be great. I think that'd be very helpful, because if we start from the beginning and doing it that way, it would kind of help guide the rest of the project. And then let's see, Michael, do you want to spin up a Google form and kind of collect some of the name ideas from the group that were discussed today? And then what we'll do is, if you have any name ideas, or if someone watching this YouTube stream has any name ideas that they'd like to kind of throw in the mix, maybe we'll leave open the collection until Tuesday. No, that's tomorrow, right? Maybe until Wednesday, maybe like end of the day Wednesday, on whatever coast you're in, Michael. And then we'll leave it open until next Monday for the voting, and then we'll kind of decide on what to name it. And then I think, as far as this initial part of the conversation goes, I think we're in a good spot. Anyone can think of something that I haven't discussed for this? Additional thoughts? Nope. All right, we're good then. We have our idea for our next project ready, set. Very good, very exciting. Okay, well, thanks everyone again. So now let's go back to our classic project, our blog app. Does anyone have any commits, any pull requests that they worked on this week, any code they'd like to share? Or did anyone work with anyone on any features? Farsh, were you able to work on something this week? I don't recall.
You know what? The last time I worked on something a couple weeks ago, but I don't think you were on. And they went over it. I basically set up a before action, because I didn't know why we didn't have a before action to do the post params to find. So I just set that post action, and that was basically it.
Got it. Got it. All right. let's see here. And Jesus, did you work with anyone on any features this week?
Not this week.
Okay. So, and I don't think, let me see, I'm trying to think of who our usual contributors are. Monish, were you able to work on something this week?
Nothing.
No? Okay, yeah, I think we're missing some of the people that were working on some stuff, and I think Abhinav had worked on stuff, but he had to drop out of the call. So what we can do is, why don't we go back to our, what we're going to do is we're going to screen share. Let me open up the GitHub page. Give me a second here and pull it up. Let's see. Here's the link to the pull request that we have right now. Rather than me doing it, does someone want to kind of choose one of those pull requests, screen share, and we'll go ahead and review it and talk about it? Victor, you want to take a crack at that?
No, not really.
Would you be willing to do it anyways? If not, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
No, not really.
All right, Monish.
I think one of those are mine too, actually.
What was that?
I think one of those are mine.
Okay, let's see which one is yours.
Someone asked to clean up the git ignore and clean up the way the SAS structure was. There was 2 tickets out there. And since this was my first interaction with the group, I thought I'd take a deep dive into Ruby and work on the git ignore file.
Hey, you know what? It's tough, but someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to. I know. It's a tough life I have.
Well, go ahead and open it up and screen share. Tell us
I knew you were going to say that. Which one of these buttons do I have to click? Oh, this one says screen share.
That's the green one, yeah.
Uh,
You've been in a couple of these. You knew that was coming.
Oh, I was waiting for the day, yeah. All right, I think this will work. I can hit share. And I can ask what everybody else asks. Can you see my screen?
There you go. Now we can.
Yeah. Can you see my code window?
Yep.
All right.
The only thing, maybe make the font a little bit larger just so we can.
Oh, I know. I'm always the one who says that too.
There you go.
How's that look? I'm not a Vim guy. Sorry to disappoint everybody. I apologize in advance.
Not all of us are, so you're good. You're good.
Okay. There was a ticket. I think it was ticket 73 or 77. One of those had a good idea that we should be ignoring the database and secrets file. Those actually should never be committed into a project. And I agree with that, so why I took it. So I created a sample of each. And then I have my copy, which is configured for my machine. And going forward, my copy should not be in the repo. No one should, just the samples. So people who are starting can just rename this file and rename this file, get new secret keys, and they're good to go. Set up their database. Life is great.
Very good. So in case we don't have the same knowledge level, which, you know, it's okay, we're all starting, what do those secrets file and what does that database YAML file do?
I knew you were going to do that, and that's why I didn't want to. That's funny. Okay. Database file is where your database configuration is for development, testing, and production. It's important for a guy like me. I'm a MySQL guy, and you guys use Postgres, so it allows me to set up my own custom configuration going forward. I haven't done it on this machine, but it's next for me, so I can run the blog.
Very good.
And secrets is where you put your secret keys. I'm a little fuzzy on that part. I know it's used for something like bcrypt, and it's very important, and it's also used for encrypted cookies. I've done that before.
Yes.
So this file gets out, it's bad. Very bad.
You have any samples, and you know, if you don't know, that's fine. But of what other type of keys you might be putting in your secrets file?
I do not know. I've only used these.
So let me give you, or does someone else have an example that they want to share of what else you would put in your secrets file? No? Okay. So, not necessarily in your secrets. Let's see. What you have here is just different keys, right? To help you keep everything private, your cookies, things like that.
Yep.
Doesn't necessarily have to be a secrets file, but you use a very similar process to store any API keys that you work with. So there you go, Jesus. So for example, we're talking about working and integrating this app into Twitter. So let's assume that we create our own Twitter account for our app, and it's going to be the committed crew or committed Twitter account, correct? And we want to show that once a week we post to Twitter from our app directly how many new members we have on our app. So for us to be able to post directly from it, we need to authenticate with Twitter. And we have some kind of authentication keys to do that. So we throw this in our secrets file. Obviously, we don't want this getting out into our public Git repo, because anyone could take that key now and go ahead and start posting from their app. So we want to make sure that any kind of authentication API keys are usually what we have in here, is what we store here, and that's why you don't want to make them public, because you want to make sure that only you have them.
Makes sense. Secret's a key.
So any kind of API keys you can use.
Great.
Now, second question. Secret key. Does the group know what that env secret key base is doing? Brandon, go for it. You can chat it in.
It takes the value from the system environment variable.
Exactly, the environment variable. Has everyone worked with environment variables? Mary, have you worked with those, or Mike?
I have not, no.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. So, do you want to kind of give an explanation of what that would be used for? What an environment variable is, Jesus, if you can?
Yeah, sure. That I use in Linux and Mac for many things, like setting your default browser, setting your default editor, your path, which is where the shell looks for binaries like Rails or Git, things like that. So it's like a live configuration thing.
Yeah. So for example, I believe Heroku uses an environment variable to authenticate with your app, right? When you're pushing it, you're pushing to that, because I know you can change that environment variable.
Mm-hmm.
But basically what it is, it's kind of like setting a variable, but instead of setting it in your Rails app, you're setting it in your actual server on your Linux machine. And then you're authenticating against that. So that's why you're calling the invariable secret key base. And that way it's not stored anywhere in your Rails app. If someone's authenticated with it, your Rails app on production is going to go find that Linux that's in your server outside of your app, authenticate it against it, and then see if it's safe to go ahead and let that user access whatever you need to access. So that's mainly how I've used it. Hopefully that makes sense. Does that make a little bit of sense, Mary?
Yep, that makes sense. I don't have a Linux machine, so that's probably why I don't know what that is.
Okay, but you would end up getting familiar with it anyways, because when you're deploying, you're more than likely deploying to a Linux machine.
Ah, right. Mm-hmm.
If you're using Heroku, if you're using DigitalOcean, AWS, you would still somewhere along the line interact with these environment variables. So for me, that was when I got my first actual production app that I was working on. I had to wrap my head around what this did, because I really just wasn't used to it. So it's something good to kind of have in the back pocket. All right, so continue, Victor. Let's see. So go ahead and go to your git ignore file.
Okay, there you go.
So what's going on here? What's a git ignore?
Git ignore is the instructions to Git on files to not include in your repo. They will be ignored. So if you do git add dot, it doesn't add these things.
Exactly. And there we have the local setup file. So we have ignore the config database.yaml, config secrets.yaml.
Yep, and I edit this one for me because I'm an RBEV guy for Ruby, and I don't want you guys to get my Ruby version number, so I edit that for myself.
Got it.
Selfish guy. What can I say? Sorry.
The code's in your computer. What can you do?
I know. Power of owning the code, right? So I figured that shouldn't be in there either for anybody, so I put that in there too. And then Alan added this one last week, and I pulled it into mine.
Very good. And then you added sample files. Why did you do that? Why is that kind of a good idea?
So that there's a starting point for somebody who might not be at the skill level where they can create their own. All they have to do is change the extension, take off the .sample, and they have files up and running.
Very good. And those sample files, that secret key base, and well, you don't have anything in there that would be exclusive or that we're trying to protect. But yeah, that would get someone up and running.
Correct. In theory, on my copy, I change these.
Exactly. Anyone have any questions for Victor?
Please no.
See, if we had our app built already, we could kind of upvote and commend you for your hard work on it.
But lucky for me, we don't. So.
But we will. All right.
All right, so that's might get ignored.
Thanks. Anything else that you included on this pull request?
Yes, issue number 77. Or it might have been 73. I did two of them, 73 and 77. And that was cleaning up the SAS stuff.
All right, go for it.
The way the app was built, it had application.scss. But then I noticed there's a few notes spread around the other SAS files saying that something's not working in asset pipeline, so this is a workaround. I saw that twice. And the reason why I believe those were happening is because you're not really supposed to do that. You're supposed to leave application.css alone, which is what asset pipeline's compiling down into. If the file does not exist, hence all the problems with asset pipeline. So I never do that as a rule. I leave it there, and I just include my one file that I want SAS. Now I'm out of the worrying about this markup, this language, the order of what things are loading. I know why people don't like to use this file, but it still needs to be here. So the first thing I did was include the old application.css file, and now it's here.
Okay.
I added a little copyright to the top, just good practice. I reordered the imports. Again, there were notes that the imports were not working correctly just because they were in the wrong order. This is order importance. It builds based on top to bottom. So if your variables file is under your mixins and your mixin calls a variable, you're going to get an error message. So what people were doing to solve the problem was just adding that variable to the top of the page that needed it. But then that's not very dry.
Right.
So what I did is just fix the proper order so it builds in the proper order. And it should build from the most required to the least required.
Very good.
And then for me, I would actually, this is not my app, so I didn't want to do it, I would take these things and I would move them to the bottom. So that, again, I have my flow of Bootstrap, the main application, and then any page-specific content at the bottom gets built in. And then all of this gets handed over to application.css for the asset pipeline in the proper order.
Got it. So you would do it that other way? So you just kept it this way just to kind of keep what we already had, or what was it?
Yeah, because I knew we were starting a new app, and I did not want to go in and monkey around with what was here. I know that's just a good to great thing. I was trying to fix the problems that existed. The problem that existed was asked is to make it work right. That works right now. Now there's a better practice, in my opinion, which is to move the page-specific imports to the bottom of the file.
Got it.
So you have Bootstrap, most important, then your application-specific stuff, and then your page-specific stuff.
Got it. All right.
And then you can also structure this better. You can have a partial for SAS that has your body stuff, your main stuff. You can get as granular as you want, which is why I didn't want to even go down that path if we're starting a new app.
Yeah, makes sense. And sometimes, again, you're going to have to make I like that, what you mentioned, good to great, right? Even when you're coding on a production app, you kind of have to make that call very often.
It's my favorite philosophy,
yeah,
to be honest.
So Very, very good. Anything else to share on this?
No, that's my deep dive into my first Ruby commit for you guys.
Does anyone have any questions on this Ruby commit? Any questions on Sass or what he's doing right here with the import?
Be nice to the new guy. Don't ask anything hard, please.
I think you're very close to getting away with this.
That's great. That's why I say,
look, you got your first merge already. Nice.
and I'm lucky. There should be no merge conflicts at all.
All right, let's go to GitHub and let's see what it says.
You want to do that?
Yeah, let's go. Let's see what it says.
Okay. You want me to go here?
Yeah.
And merge?
You're right, and you're gonna click on that. And let's see, we got a merge, we got to ship it. Mary, what do you think?
Ship it.
Michael?
Oh, look, you guys were all nice to me today.
I don't know. Michael hasn't answered, so we might not be able to ship. See, Christopher gave you the thumbs up already.
Christopher, you're very nice. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna vote for Michael then.
Yep, I vote thumbs up. Let's do it.
Ship it. Confirm.
Actually, I'd like him to go over it again.
Unfortunately, you were a little late to the whole voting thing, and we already closed that session, so we've moved on. To
Can't
something
I unmerge something?
Good. We're good. So we're going to confirm right here. We're good.
Oh man. All right. I think you're right. We went beyond that. Ship it. Go for it.
Okay, there we go. Done.
Nice.
And delete my branch.
Delete your branch before we make you undelete it.
You notice I was in a hurry to do that.
Very good, man. Congrats. Thanks for contributing.
Oh, you're welcome. The next time I'll do something harder, I promise.
Oh, we got plenty of hard stuff coming up on the next project, so we're good.
Good deal. I think I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. That was good.
You're welcome.
Abhinav, welcome back. Did you have something you worked on this week? Oh, sorry, Abhinav. You're going to have to catch it on YouTube. That's the good thing about streaming this.
But I was busy doing some other project, open source project.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. So were you, I don't know, was that answering why you left, or if you were able to work on something this week?
No, I was asking what did you decided for the new project?
Oh, it's going to be a fun project. It's going to be a combination of combining your coding activity from the different sites where you can code, whether it's GitHub, Bitbucket, CodeWars, etc., and give you one central place where you can share that activity, and others can cheer you on, and it'll have social aspects within itself and also exterior social aspects such as Twitter, Facebook, potentially Instagram, and other aspects of it.
Oh, cool. I think there was something like this. It was like turning GitHub into a curriculum vitae. It grabs some data and do some artificial intelligence and write a funny text like, oh, my name is somebody, and I work on Ruby because it gets that the main language that you were programming.
Yep.
Are you planning to do something like this?
Yeah, you know what? You just came up with a new feature for it: auto-generated profiles.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of fun stuff to work on it with it.
I would assign Victor to do that. Okay, Victor.
And we already know who's going to be assigned that ticket, so we're good.
Okay.
So, were you able to work on anything on the blog app for this week? Do you have a feature that you want to talk about, Abhinav, on the blog app? Sorry, I don't think I asked you, right? No, okay, very good. So I think that was it. Now I think we have one other open pull request. Unfortunately, Alan couldn't join us, but maybe we can at least take a look at it. Let's see. Farish, do you want to go over Alan's?
Let me find it.
I have one quick thought on Alan's ticket there.
Sure.
I was the reason why it was not merged in last week, so I'm sorry. He reviewed it. It was tested. Everybody on the call loved it. The issue was brought up at that moment about the usage of gems, and we agreed that if we're not going to start a new app, that'd be a great place to start rolling our own friendly URL to replace a gem that he was using. So he held off merging it in because we were at a fork in the road. If we're going to stay on this app, this is a good time to not use gems. So we wanted to wait for this discussion. Otherwise, it was already deemed ready to go.
Ooh, good contribution on that. Okay.
Which issue? Well.
Here, let me.
Got it. Friendly URLs.
Yep.
So go ahead and merge it then. You guys had already approved this last week. I wasn't here last week.
Yes, it was looked at, it was approved, and he was going to merge. He was at the step of clicking, the merge. But then we started briefly talking about the second app, and that's when he voted not to do a second app. He voted to work on more difficult tasks of the current app, and then I pointed out, well, that's a great place to start. Then, if you want to do harder things in the current app, instead of using that gem, we can roll our own to create that feature.
Would it be better just to let him decide if he wants to pull back this merge request?
Well, yeah, I think it should be his vote. Yeah, sure. But if we're going to move on to a different app, he might be busy doing other things with the new apps. He may not have time to roll his own on that. But I would make it his call too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's.
For the record, he did not agree with me. He was very fond of using the gem, so that's why we agreed to have a group discussion this week about it.
All right. Let's take a look at it. Would you mind screen sharing it, Farish? Let's at least see what Friendly URLs is doing. And then we can still leave it up to Alan to kind of.
Okay, let me see if I can get the right screen. Okay, let me enlarge this. Okay, so files changed. See, I think part of my changes were put in here too. Since we're over here, I basically set this post action and removed these lines and added this method with the set post, and I guess he added the friendly URLs to that also.
Okay, so let's step back a little bit. What is a friendly URL?
I have no clue because I wasn't here last week.
Victor, can you kind of fill us in on what we're doing with this one?
Yeah, I can try.
Go for
Instead
it.
of going to the URL, like victor.com/posts/1, you can go to the slug instead. So victor.com/post/my-great-ideas-r-awesome. You can do that instead.
Yeah, very. So you're using a slug for that instead of using the actual post ID.
Right.
Now, when I started learning the code and someone said you're using a slug, I had no clue what it meant by using a slug. It did not sound like something I wanted to use. So, what is a slug?
You're asking me?
Yeah, or anyone else, but you've got the floor, so might as well.
I'll let Christopher take this one.
Christopher, you want to take one? You can do it via chat. If not, then that's fine. Abhinoam, you want to take a chance of explaining what a slug is?
I was just trying to look at the dictionary. I know what.
That's not going to go
my screen share. The proof.
And that's why it confused me when I was trying to figure out what a slug was in learning to code.
But it's easy. The friendly URL is like Victor said. It's something that is easier to remember instead of using the API endpoints like post /2/3, like Jesus Castello said in the chat. You have like a redirection, something like if it's a blog post like it's Friday, so you get /post /it's Friday with slashes. The problem with that friendly URL solves is to turn some string in something that the URL safe, that you avoid code injection on it, and that all characters is valid validation. That's the kind of problem that this gem solves. So what we were talking about last week, it's not a very hard functionality to implement. So perhaps Alan could do it by himself, not use the gem, and so the learning gain it will be greater than just use the gem. Personally, as I'm come from Ruby, and though I don't have no, it's not hard to me to think how to implement something like this. I like much when people talk about what the way people usually do something. Professionals like people that work on great software house. They sometimes less conference that I went. I have an opportunity to take a breakfast with somebody that was pretty productive in Rails, and what's amazing to see how he do the things with some templates, Rails templates, so he could be very productive. If you ask him to do something in Rails, the scaffold of things is running in less than minutes, and I think it's pretty good to learn this way also, because we have so many options to do the same thing. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So that's good. So we have this friendly ID. I've seen the slugs used a lot, like in blog posts actually. And maybe that's why we switched to that. So instead of having sharing on Twitter or Facebook or something, Ruby Monday blog /post/1, you could say Ruby Monday blog / how I contributed my first PR to this, project. It's more interesting that way. I got your title right there, Victor.
Yes, and it's also SEO friendly to do it that way as well.
Yep, exactly. Very cool. All right, so what we'll do is then we'll hold off on that one, and then let kind of Alan decide. If he still has the time, then he might want to go ahead and just rework it and contribute this one into this existing project. So I think that's what we had as far as PRs go for the blog app. But I think we're going to be a lot busier with issues and tickets now that we're going to transition to the new project, and that's going to be fun. So there'll be lots for everyone to do. So takeaways from today then is we're going to start writing out the documentation and the guidelines for the next project. I'll start working on that. If there's something that you think of throughout the week that would be a core feature of the project, feel free to just find me on Slack and send me the ideas. It's better to put it on the Ruby Monday channel versus the direct. That way everyone else can participate on the chat for that. So go ahead and do that. Jesus will kind of maybe I'll talk to Jesus throughout the week to see if we can put in the documents how we can start this from the get-go with kind of the TDD, BDD mindset on that, and how we can review in that way as well. And anything else that you all think I'm missing as far as at least getting this started next week?
Maybe an introduction on what BDD is. I think a lot of people have heard of what TDD is, but maybe BDD is not as understood.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. So maybe like next week we could have a session on how we're going to work the project. So maybe a little discussion on BDD. I know when we started this project, we had Saran did an intro to Git. So is everyone familiar with working with Git and the standard flow? I think everyone here has contributed already, but if we have new people jumping on there, they're not, then maybe we can have some kind of resource for that.
There was a session from Saturday. She taped and put it on YouTube where we went over Git, how to commit, how to pull, how to push, how to create branches, the proper flow, initials, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Okay, so she already put that on YouTube, the recording.
Right, from Saturday. There was a session just on Git on Saturday. She had a little whiteboard out, was drawing on it. It was great.
Oh, awesome. Okay, perfect. So we have that as a reference.
I've been pushing Sarah on. She said she's going to do it because her use of Trello is amazing, and I haven't used Trello, but I've been wanting to, so she's probably going to do a video on that too.
Okay, that'd be great. I am starting to work on Trello because I'm working on a couple features that require it, but I'm not the strongest in Trello, so that would be great to see. Do you think we need that though, or are we okay with working our standard GitHub issues tickets?
You know what? It's such a neat organizational tool. Even if you don't want to use it yet, I think everybody could benefit from it. So it's really a neat tool. No other way to describe it.
Got it. Got it. And then
But I don't think we would need that for the second app, though, right? Those are two separate things.
I think so. I think so. I think we want to, especially to be able to have people contribute. I think our just kind of sticking things in GitHub for now has worked well. It makes it easier for people to kind of see what's available, what to work on, what not to work on. So I'd rather keep it that way. All right. Any other thoughts on this? On what we have pending? Let's see, Mary.
Nope.
This conversation kind of sparked out of the initial idea that you had, so you should be happy about that. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, and then we got Michael jumping on board now. Any questions you have moving forward, Michael?
No, it's interesting to see how different people code. I look forward to this.
All right. And then I know Jesus wants to build microservices on straight Ruby, and he's not going to use Sinatra or Lotus or pretty much anything. So you ready for that, Jesus?
Maybe.
Come on, you're going to have to, now you've committed to building your own framework for us, just the Code Newbie framework.
Have you built like Sinatra or anything, Jesus?
Yes, I have done a small log parser with Sinatra.
What was that again, Jesus?
An Apache the web server, a log parser.
Oh, nice. Very nice. On Sinatra. At work, we use Sinatra. And, well, not for everything, but we do have a part of our stuff that's on Sinatra. You know what? There's a very simple tutorial to at least, has everyone worked with Sinatra before? At least a little bit? Or who hasn't worked on Sinatra at all? Okay.
I think I did something a year ago, and I've totally blanked out on what I did.
I saw a tutorial that was like, because I was trying to find something on Sinatra, and everyone tells you, oh, it's just Ruby, but there's nothing really that I had found at first. But then I found a very easy tutorial. It's not complicated. It's not a complicated app at all. But I think it gives you kind of a good idea of how simple Sinatra is and why it's an interesting thing to use on some things. And it's actually one of the Rails Girl guides. Let me see. Give me a second, and I'll share it with the group right now. I found it here. Here you go. That one right there, it doesn't take that long to go through it, and I think they did a very good job of just very easily getting you up and running with a Sinatra app. And if you're coming from Rails, it's easy to follow on what it's doing. And so I think that was a very good opener. I really like that tutorial right there, because it's simple and it kind of gets you quickly understanding what Sinatra does. So that's my recommend for the day. All right, we got a couple minutes left. Anything Ruby or code related that you want to share? Anything that you've been up to lately that you kind of want to share with the rest of the group? Or if you have any questions on something you've been stuck with throughout the week, feel free, go for it. Farish, you got anything going on that you want to share with the group?
No, only what we talked about earlier. I'm working with Code Academy right now in their advisor program. In fact, they're so busy, they're talking about doubling up the shifts with their new program. And that's basically it for me. And I want to start my own project management software. I consider it kind of like a personal challenge. So that's my next little task.
That's great. So on Code School, do do you help people like asynchronously, or do you actually like jump on a hangout with someone and help them that way?
They're not doing screen sharing. What they do is they have a chat system, which will allow me to. They can share their code with me.
Okay.
And then from there, I review the code and tell them what's wrong. And then the other half of it's been explaining concepts, like in jQuery, somebody didn't understand the key up or why it was being used. And I was explaining to them how in jQuery you can track key events. And key up means when the key gets released and it comes up. That's how it tracks that event. Stuff like that. But they have the new Codecademy Pro, which is in beta, has 3 tracks, basically basic, then front end, and then full stack.
Wow. Is that helping you kind of understand these concepts better for yourself? Kind of helping others go through it?
What it's doing is letting me learn over my mistakes by looking at other code. When you start reviewing other people's code, it starts getting into your head, hey, I now know what to look for in my code, and it helps a lot. And I would recommend it for anybody just start reviewing code in general. A big common practice mistake, let's say in JavaScript in the beginning, is forgetting semicolons in the wrong spots. And by looking at these people's code, I'm starting to realize, hey, I can pick this out now easily.
Right. That's very good. Very good. Well, we're happy for you on that. I think it'll work out well for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Abhinav, what's going on with you?
This week I've been working at the Develop 2 version of Highline. Highline is a 10 years old gem. It's really used by other gems and there was in need some refactoring. And I began to talk to James, Edward Gray, and we doing this slowly, and this week I was pretty happy that I was able to ship Develop 2 version. I think there will be two more releases. You will get some stable new release.
Oh, that is awesome. I'm looking at your commit. So this already got merged in, right?
Yeah.
That is great.
The Develop 1, it was I think the greater modifications. It was the bigger commit. I was holding it before merging until I get confident with code, and I was talking slowly with James as we progress, and something I don't like to do this a big release because there's too much difference from one to the other. But I think it was necessary at the first phase because there was a lot of modifications. You can see I'm working at using Metricful to keep track of the improvement at the metrics, so we could objectively measure if the code is getting better.
That is awesome. Any bigger challenges that you faced while you were working on this?
A lot of challenges. Something we're planning to do some blogging about the things that, because it was an old code base, and it was pretty interesting because it's like archaeology, code archaeology.
Yeah.
I could see some patterns of the early days of Ruby. It was pretty interesting, and I was faced with some things that I just didn't imagine, because everybody says that global variables are bad, but people don't say that instance variables can be as bad as global variable. I think the phrase would be any kind of global sharing state is evil. And at the old code base there was some instance variable that was used by the coders like a state state coordinate. In a part of the code, it saves some state, the instance variable. In a distant part of the code, it uses that state. So it's worked pretty hard to track the bugs. Pretty hard. Because you don't know where in the code the people change the instance variable. You have to follow like a by book. So I was cutting this kind of things, extracting methods, extracting classes to make things self-contained. It was easy to debug and to improve the code. It was really cool.
That is great, man. That is such a good challenge to take on. I think that really helps you understand not only that code, but your own.
And I would like to share with people like Victor and the others. This was like James said at the podcast that he was with a jam and needs some maintenance, and if somebody could help, he could help to with some assistance. So at the first time I was thinking with myself, oh, I'm not up to it. I shouldn't talk to him because I'm not good enough to do it. So it was bullshit because James was so kind with me, and I was learning, I was reading, and he was helping. It was pretty cool. And what I see, it's a lot of gems that the people begin. It's great gems, use gem that the author simply had to change jobs or change the language, and it's in an unmaintained state. So anybody could take the gem to maintain. Like some gem that I saw last week, it's RB readline. There was a great Rubist, I just forget his name. He did the gem, but he was not having time to maintain it. Somebody took the maintenance, but didn't do much thing. So if anybody interested, it's a great gem. It's a readline replacement, pure Ruby readline replacement. It solves a lot of problems because it's hard to keep compatibilities with JRuby, MRI, Rubinius, Windows. So if you have a pure Ruby readline library, it's much easier. But the gem is with a lot of bugs because it's old code now. So if somebody is interested, could just go there and
post a link to that gem somewhere on Slack. That'd be great for someone to take a look into.
Okay.
Thanks, Abinand. Well, good work. Good work. It's nice to see you go reach out and do that.
Thanks.
Jesus, you have something to share as well. Go for it.
Yes. Well, I made the voting app I was talking about. Yes. I just finished making it work. It's not pretty, but it works.
So, Michael, we no longer need the Google form. Jesus built a voting app.
Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see it?
Not yet, but let's see. I'm waiting for it. There you go.
Okay, so you can see the names, right?
Uh-huh.
And the votes and an ID. So you want to vote, you have to use curl. So we want to vote for committed. The ID is 3. Then I have to say curl that ID equals 3, and this will send a post request to my app, which is a Sinatra app. So, and of course, it's not running.
Yes, that's it helps when it runs.
Now, count updated, so now it should have one vote. Let's see. Let's cross your fingers.
Live coding is always fun.
Oh, there we go. What's one? It worked. So there you go, your voting app.
You have to push this up, man. We have to push up and put the voting mechanism on Slack, and that's everyone's gonna learn how to use curl now.
Uh, do you want to see the source code?
Yes, please.
Okay, here we go. So it's a bit hacked together because I did it very quick. So here we go. So we have required Sinatra, and I'm using Active Record for the database. Then Postgres, Hamal for the view. Then this established connection. Then the model, this is the Active Record model. And then we have the Sinatra actions, the vote method, which simply adds +1 and then save. And the index, which is very simple, render the Hamal view with the votes. That's all. Well, I will show you the view too.
Yes.
Nothing special, but this is the view.
ID votes count. That
There
is
you
great.
go. I said I was going to do it, so
You did.
of course.
Hey, are you gonna put this up so we can use it?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, please put it up and share the source code to it too. This is great. This is a perfect tutorial for someone getting ready for Sinatra.
Okay.
Thanks, Jesus. That was awesome. All right. Well, if you're still on the call, you're a trooper. Thanks everyone for joining. It was a fun discussion today. I'm really excited about the fact that we have our next app lined up. We'll start working on that. I'll start working on the docs for that. And we hope we get to see each other next week. Until then, thanks everyone for joining. See ya.
Thanks for having us.